What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I hope you like this video. This is Secrets of Playboy, Season 1, Episode 5. So this episode is all about sex. It's all about sex, so buckle up, buttercup. This is not for children, okay? If you have stumbled across this, this is not for children. So the majority of this episode, we are talking to Sandra Theodore. Now, we've seen Sandra Theodore in all 4 of these episodes. She's talked about her experience with Hugh Heffner. She was his girlfriend from 1976 to 1981. And we've heard her tell a few little anecdotes here and there. But this whole episode was about their relationship. She said that her main focus and reason for speaking out is basically to stop another girl from making the decisions that she made, understanding what love really looks like and what it doesn't look like. She talks about she was 19 years old when she met Hugh Hefner. She went to a party at the Playboy Mansion with her a friend of hers from high school, and he basically decided she was the one. He picked her out of a crowd and told her to stay back after the party was over, and she did. And basically that is how the relationship evolved at that point. um One of the things that was said in this episode was that he always chose young women because young women could be manipulated. Young women were naive. Young women, a lot of them were not very sexually experienced, and he did a lot of things that are classic behavior, according to Sandra. This is all allegedly. um that are classic behavior of an abuser. He isolated her from her friends and family. He stopped her from working. She said she was an actress trying to, of course, trying to get into the industry. He stopped her from working, and he even hired someone to basically spy on her when she wasn't at the mansion. They talked about the fact that she came around just as he was breaking up with a girlfriend that he had been with for about 4 or 5 years. And it was after that relationship that he decided he was no longer going to pretend to be monogamous, because he was pretending to be in these monogamous relationships, but then cheating on the women. He said at this point he decided, look, I'm going to have my multiple girlfriends. I'm going to have my, I'm going to indulge in all these things, and they're going to have to just be okay with it, because that's what I've decided I want. And here's the thing: there's nothing wrong with that as long as you find the people that are okay with it. Like I can appreciate that he was being upfront and saying, listen, from here on out, I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm not even going to pretend that it's going to be me and you. You're going to know that it's me, you, her. And in some cases, him. And in some cases, the dog. We'll get to that. So the other problem with that is it's okay for you, but it's not okay for her. So he had his other girlfriend that came in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And when his other girlfriend came in on Tuesdays and Thursdays, then Sandra basically had to get out of the mansion. And that was when the girl he hired, her, I believe her name was Lisa. She was one of his secretaries. He hired her to basically be her spy. And they would go out, and then it was like, okay, well, come back and tell me about what y'all did. And he had to make, he wanted to make sure that she wasn't out here doing other things with other people, because again, what's good for the goose wasn't good for the gander as far as he was concerned. Now, in the last episode, she talked about the fact that she was a drug mule for him. And she talked about the fact that she started using cocaine while she was there. And she dug deeper into that it helped numb her to a lot of the things that was going on. And it also allowed her to indulge in a lot of the things that was expected of her to indulge in. She said that, Hugh liked to indulge in group sex, and she said for a long time she just said no. She said, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be a part of it. I'm not a lesbian. I don't have any interest or any desire to be with a woman, and I don't want to do it. And she said one night she just sort of kind of gave in. It was like, okay, fine, I will try it for you, but that's it. If I don't like it, that's the end of the conversation. We don't ever have to talk about it again. And of course, that just opened up the door. That opened up the door, and from that point forward, She was expected to indulge in all of his sexual desires. Um, and she said basically they were having some sort of group sex activity about 5 nights a week. I said, but then they go on to explain that Hugh was not always participating. They said he was a voyeur. He made tapes. They said he was even a director. He would give costumes. He would, give scenarios and direction. And he would create basically his own porno collection. Which, again, they talked about that as well. They talked about how he would have these videos. He had cameras in every room. And, that's how he sort of blackmailed people. Because he would say, hey, you may not want to say X, Y, Z. Because I got this tape over here of you doing A, B, and C. So let me go down, make sure the valet who we met in the first episode, he spoke about how part of his job when he came to work was to check the sex schedule, meaning what was on deck that night, because they had theme nights. We found out that they had a pig night. Now, pig night was on Thursday nights, and a couple of people said that pig night was Thursday nights. Okay, pig night was on Thursday nights, and that was the night that he would get pimps that he had hanging out at the Playboy mansion. They would go out and get some of their women and bring their women back to the house. They would have a big dinner where the women would be there. He would say, order whatever you want to eat, whatever you want. And that's when he would have a lot of his celebrity friends there, a lot of, actors and movie stars there. And the women, they were prostitutes. They would have to get examined by his in-house doctor to make sure that they didn't have any visible signs of anything, because we know everything ain't visible, but no visible signs of anything. And then from that point forward, they would indulge. He said they would rank them, they had a system where they would rank the women. They said, and Hugh called them pigs, and that's what they called pig night. But they were never allowed to say it in front of the girls, and they don't know why Hugh called them pigs. We don't know where they got that from. But that's what they called it. They called it pig night. Now, they talked about something interesting that, I pride myself on being pretty knowledgeable of things of a sexual nature. Not because I indulge, but just because I'm curious. I read. And they talked about something about where the women would take syringes and withdraw blood and then would engage in fellatio, and that would somehow heighten the experience. I've never heard of that before. Put it in the comments if y'all have heard of that. And they said that John Belushi, that John Belushi was this was something that he was particularly into, and he was one of the men that would be there on movie night. Now, I'm glad they started to drop some other names, because y'all remember how I felt about the whole Don Cornelius story. And again, I'm not defending Don. If Don did it, then that's atrocious. But I was just curious as to why that was the only name they felt the need to drop. But now we see they didn't added some names. They didn't added some names to it. The valet also said that part of his job, he said that Hugh would keep all of his sex toys behind the headboard in the bedroom. And he had all kinds of stuff there, dildos and strap-ons and whips and Benoit balls and anal beads and, the whole list. And part of his job was the morning after, he would go in and he would have to pick up all of the sex toys, and him and the maids would go down and sterilize them, put them in plastic bags, and then put them back behind the headboard. Now listen. I can appreciate that he made sure it got clean. I can appreciate that the valet had to go in and make sure that they sterilized all of the toys. I'm just being honest. Like, listen. I'm just saying. So, then we started getting really, really deep, okay? Sandra talked about how one day she walked in the bedroom and Hugh was there jacking off the dog. And she was like, "Are you crazy?" And his response was, "Well, the dog has needs too." And she said from that point forward, she never left him alone with the dog because she just thought that was absolutely nasty. Then they told the story of Linda Lovelace. Now, those who don't know who Linda Lovelace was, Linda Lovelace was probably one of the first mainstream porn stars. And what I mean by mainstream, I mean everybody knew who she was. And this was in the 70s. She starred in a movie called Deep Throat, was probably the first blockbuster porn movie. Like it went mainstream. And, you know, life before VCRs and VHS, DVDs, and of course now we got Pornhub and other things. You had to actually go to the theater to watch these movies, and of course they were in the seedy part of town, and you know you may not want nobody to see you going in or going out. And so for a movie like Deep Throat to kind of sort of cross over and become like this blockbuster type hit, and then she was the star of it. And they said that she got hooked up with this dude who really was no good for her. He kept her drugged up. He abused her physically, you know, and everything else. He would take her up to the Playboy Mansion, and basically they would just do whatever they wanted to do with her. And they told the story about one night she came to the Playboy Mansion, and when she got there, she was already high and drunk and really out of her mind. And of course, they got her higher, you know, and they brought in a German Shepherd. Now, you guys, even if y'all don't know who Linda Lovelace is, with a movie like Deep Throat, you guys can probably deduce what she's known for, okay? Connect the dots. They brought the German Shepherd in, and they watched her perform her skill on the German Shepherd. Now, Hugh Heffner actually told the story to Sandra because they all watched, like all the men watched while she did this. And of course, it was entertainment for them, you know. And she went on to speak about how absolutely nasty that was to her, and she couldn't believe that he would actually think that that's entertainment, that that's entertaining. She talked about getting sick while she was there. She got an IUD put in, and that made her sick. She talked about that she had kidney infections, and how Hugh would not allow her to go to the hospital because, of course, he maybe was afraid of what would come out as to why she had all these internal, you know, situations going on, why her IUD was messed up, why she had this kidney. And, you know, we know he had an in-house doctor, so they just treated her. I'm assuming they treated her there. And she said that, you know, his attitude basically was, why'd you let yourself get sick? What's wrong with you? Why you not taking care of yourself? Why you not handling your business? Why you not taking care of your feminine issues? And just very, you know, cold about the situation. She said that things just kept getting, you know, worse and worse and worse, to the point where now he wanted to start bringing men into the bedroom. And she said, I had no interest in sleeping with another woman. I definitely didn't have any interest in sleeping with another man. And what she described was sexual assault, because she said that these men forced themselves on her and how painful it was. And she even told Hugh that it was painful when they forced themselves on her, and he didn't care. So when somebody is forcing themselves on you to the point where it is painful, that sounds like assault. That doesn't sound, I mean, even a lot of this wasn't consensual if they had to get her so high to do it, but y'all know what I'm saying. It doesn't, at least with the women, she sort of consented to that, but she didn't sound like she consented to the men at all. She said that it got to the point where she would ask other women in the mansion who she was friends with, listen, can you please come up tonight? So she said, at least I felt like I was with somebody who would be gentle with me, who I knew, even though I never enjoyed it, I never wanted to be with these women, but at least these were women I knew, and it sort of gave me some sort of solace. They talked about how she had to become a recruiter. You know, when he would, you know, once she agreed to do it, he would basically tell her, okay, I want her tonight. I want you to invite her up tonight. You bring her with you tonight. And they showed pictures of, you could see him whispering in her ear, and then you would see the very next picture and her face would just be like the picture before she'd be smiling, then you would see him whispering, and then the picture after her face would just be blank. They showed videotape of them dancing or talking. You would see him lean in her and whisper something in her ear, and she was like, that was him telling me who he wanted. That was him telling me, hey, bring her tonight, and I did what he wanted me to do. I fulfilled his wishes. Now remember, she was 19 years old when this started, right? Fresh out of high school, dreams of Hollywood, dating this millionaire, living this millionaire life. You know, then she talked about how his best friend. Now remember, we learned about the best friend if you go back to the first episode when the young lady who talked about how she grew up in the Playboy mansion because her father was Hugh Heffner's best friend and how they lived there. His name was John. And she talked about how Hugh tried to get her in a little threesome, right? She talked about how Hugh would come on to John. And she didn't come right out and say that the two of them had sex, but she strongly insinuated that they did. Now, I ain't saying that they did, and she didn't specifically say that Hugh slept with that man. But she said that he would come on to John, and he would make these sexual advances, and John would get the look on his face, the same look she got when she knew she really couldn't say no, and she basically knew what the inevitable was. So that insinuated that they went down that road. But again, she didn't say it specifically, so I ain't gonna say it specifically. But what she said that it just nothing was ever good enough. Like he would, this would happen, and then he would want the next high, then the next high, then the next high, to the point where she said he asked her about, do you know about snuff films, or do you, would you be interested in snuff films? And she was like, what's a snuff film? And he explained it's a porno where at the end the person dies, and that's where the climax comes in. And she was like, he's at a point now where somebody has to die in order for him to have a climax. And she said that was pretty much the beginning of the end for her. And she said she was at that point, it was her 25th birthday, and she said one night they were in the bed, and she said it was so many arms and legs and so many bodies, and she said she just looked up and was just like, who am I? Like, I don't even know who I am anymore. And she said that she left out the room. She went to a part of the property where she knew nobody could find her. She said she was on the grassy knoll area over top of the jacuzzi where she didn't think anybody would look for her. And she said she just kind of sat there and just tried to figure out her life. Like, how did I get here? What am I doing with myself? Like, what am I doing with my life? And she said she left. She said she she went on to get married and have children. She said, but what happened to her in those 5 years stuck with her. And she said it affected my marriage. It has affected relationships. She said to the point where at this point, I don't even feel desirable because now I'm older and I don't have my look, I don't have the youth and all of that. And, she said, I don't even feel desired. And she just talked about how that's why she's speaking out. She said, she said she was scared to speak out at first because she felt like nobody would believe her. Nobody would listen to her. They would just look at the pictures and look at the glamorous life that she lived and be like, well, who are you talking now? Why are you saying this now? She said, but she's at a point where she has to do it for her own, I don't want to say sanity, but she has to tell this story because she just has not been able to find happiness. She said it has continued to affect her whole life. So, I don't know, y'all. It looks like next week, I don't know how many episodes. I need to look up how many episodes because we got another episode next week. So, that'll be part 6. Anyway, y'all let me know what y'all think. Drop it in those comments. Peace.